Welcome, all you sinners and sodomites.
That was almost the brown noise.
The brown noise? Are you saying you almost shit yourself?
You went so low on that.
To Bible Stories for Atheists. I am Josh.
I'm Linz.
And we are your guides to the testifiably tedious stories, literally littering the Bible. And we are covering 1 Samuel, chapters 1 through 3 on this episode, kicking off
a new format.
And we are starting up a new format. This is going to be a weekly show from now on. We'll see.
Yes.
We're going to try it out.
We're going to try it out. We can't make any promises because Josh has to figure out a way that works for him editing wise.
Yeah.
And
we don't make any money on this podcast, really. So,
right. Yeah.
like, need to still be able to figure out how to fit it in with life.
Right. Shorter, but more often. Although it, like, when you think about it, it doesn't feel like that is saving you any time whatsoever.
Yeah.
But it kind of does, because then you get a little bit longer for second one to work on.
Nope, that's not how it works out. Actually, it's the same amount of time for the second one, but it gives me less time for the first one. So the idea is we're recording these.
Well, why would you do that to yourself?
2 episodes in the same day.
Right.
And then the idea is the first episode we record today is going to come out the next week. And then the second episode comes out 2 weeks from now.
Right.
Which is what we were doing previously, where like we just recorded one episode and that came out in 2 weeks.
Was it just too exhausting to do like a whole 2-hour episode at once?
The whole point of this is because we've heard from several listeners.
Oh, this isn't for you.
No.
Oh.
No.
I thought you were doing this for yourself.
No. I'm doing this selflessly.
Okay.
I'm doing this for our listeners
Very
who love us.
Christ-like of you.
Yeah, I know. It's self-sacrificing. I'm basically Jesus. And if you talk to my mom,
it's true. That would make her marry.
It would. I mean,
not a virgin though. Hate to tell you, Josh.
Well, you don't know about when I was born, you know. Yeah, several listeners have said to us over the years, like, oh, I really love your show. I wish you guys were weekly and everything. And we were like, we don't have time for that.
Right.
So we're trying to make time for it now. It might be a little bit more work, but I don't think it'll necessarily be as much if we do slightly shorter episodes and kind of try and split them up a little bit more. So
yep.
We're going to give that a try, and if it works, great. If it doesn't,
we'll go back to the other way.
We'll go back to the old way, yeah. So strap in and strap on for episode 51, Womb Raider. Probably just jump right into it. So we wrapped up Judges.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah. You didn't care for that?
I did not.
You didn't think
it was too all over the place.
Yeah.
It was too there was too much boring to offset like the parts of it that were actually interesting, but the parts that were interesting were also batshit crazy. You know, when you learn about story structure, right? And it's basically a hill.
Oh yeah, the 3-act structure.
Yeah. There was no hill. It was like straight lines across and then shoots up and then shoots right back down and then straight across.
Right.
Like somebody having a cardiac situation.
Right. And then it goes off to the left and it goes off to the right. And it rambles.
It does.
It does.
Most of the Bible rambles though.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm excited, I guess, to hear what we're doing next.
Yeah, we're talking about Samuel, the book of Samuel.
Book of Samuel.
1 Samuel, to be specific.
Oh, he's got 2.
Sort of.
Okay.
So, as I typically do when we start off a new book, I've got some information about the book itself.
Okay.
Most of this is from Wikipedia. According to Jewish tradition, it was the book of Samuel. What?
The way you said Jewish.
Jewish tradition.
Jewish tradition.
According to Jewish tradition, it was the book was written by Samuel with additions by the prophets Gad and Nathan, who apparently appear together, like all three of them appear together in First Chronicles.
Okay.
And some story there. Modern scholarly thinking posits that the entire Deuteronomistic history was composed circa 630 to 540 BCE by combining a number of independent texts of various ages. First and Second Samuel were originally, and in most Jewish Bibles still are, a single book. But the first Greek translation, called the Septuagint.
Wait, what? Septuagint?
Yeah, the first Greek translation of the Old Testament of the Hebrew Bible.
Septuagint.
Septuagint.
Okay.
Yep. Produced around the 2nd century BC, divided this book into two. So the Septuagint divided the book into two. This was adopted by Latin translations, was used in early Christian church of the West, and finally introduced into Jewish Bibles around the 16th century. What's funny, though, is they say that, but I've always heard that the reason why they ended up separating them was because of scroll length. That it was written as one book, but scrolls were only so long, so they ended up splitting it into two. Same for Chronicles, same for Kings. The books of Samuel are considered to be based on both historical and legendary sources, primarily serving to fill the gap in Israelite history after the events described in Deuteronomy. According to Donald Redford, the books of Samuel exhibit too many anachronisms to have been compiled in the 11th century BCE, when it was supposedly.
And an anachronism is
when something is out of place in time.
Okay.
So, like, if you were watching a period movie and it was like the 18th century, somebody having a digital watch is an anachronistic thing.
So the Dresden Doll song.
Girl anachronism. Yeah, she's
a girl out of place.
In the wrong place and time.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That aligns.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite examples of this actually in movies is, you remember Marie Antoinette, the Sofia Coppola one?
Yes.
When she has a pair of Chuck Taylors.
Yep.
Yeah, that's an anachronism.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I've heard the word a lot, but it's never a word that I've felt like I needed to look up for any reason. It just only randomly pops up in most people's vocabulary.
I think the Dresden Doll song is what made me look that word up.
Yeah.
The Deuteronomistic view is that an early version of the history was composed in the time of King Hezekiah, which is the 8th century BC. The bulk of the first edition dates.
Are you sure that's not Hezekiah?
It might be Hezekiah, actually. Okay. I think you're right. Hezekiah. That looks better.
Yeah, that sounds better.
It sounds better.
Than Hezekiah. Hezekiah.
There are several names throughout the readings where I'm just like, fuck it, blow through it.
I speak Midwesterner English. I don't even pronounce most English words correctly. Did we do Deuteronomy?
Yeah.
Book?
Yep.
What happened in that? You're going to have to give me a refresher.
So that was when Moses was still alive.
Okay.
That would have been like the last thing we covered in the first 10 episodes.
Their years in the deserts.
Right. And then, and he dies at the end of that book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Spoilers.
You're randomly starting your adventure with us here.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So you said that this covers the time after
Judges.
This covers the time after Judges.
Yes. So this is part of a continuity, like the story.
The whole histories are covering the time in between Moses and
the time of the kings.
Okay.
Really, it's going to be to the second exile. So if you remember, we've talked about this several times, but the northern kingdom of Israel falls at one point by I want to say the Babylonians. I always get these confused. I think that was the Babylonians, and then the southern kingdom, I think, is taken by the Assyrians, or that might be vice versa. The Deuteronomistic history basically goes through when the southern kingdom falls.
Gotcha.
So next we get Saul.
After Samuel is Saul?
Oh, I'm sorry, Samuel. Oh God, this is gonna happen a lot because
Okay.
King Saul does come up in here.
Oh, okay.
And I'm constantly getting Saul and Samuel confused for some reason. It's not
those
even
are
like they're
not the
super
same.
similar names.
They both start with an S.
Yeah, that's enough.
Okay.
You know my family. You know how often my mom will call me every other name
that's
of
normal.
a guy in our family before she gets to my name.
See, being an only child, you didn't maybe experience this a whole lot, except for maybe her calling you
What the fuck?
who is a random person in their life.
I can always just edit around his name. Yeah.
Growing up in a family that is bigger, more than one child, parents often do run down the full gamut of names to get to the further you are down the list, the longer it takes to get to who you are.
Is your mom like Nick?
Well, no, because I was ahead of him.
Oh, right.
And so
Nick would get called Lindsay.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. It's when you're frustrated and like you are so used to yelling at everybody that like your mouth just starts talking. And so it starts yelling a name, but it's the wrong one.
Right.
So then you have to keep switching it until you get to the right one.
Yeah.
Like the animals included. Like I've been called Sachi, which was our dog's name.
Okay.
Damn it, Sachi, Lindsay.
Names aren't anywhere near each other.
Sorry, you're eating off the floor. I didn't know which one to yell at.
As you were known to do.
Yes, 100%. Always eating off the floor.
Yeah. Anyway. The irresistible desire to give birth. There was a certain man of Ramathaim, an Ephraimite. He had 2 wives. The name of one was Hannah. The name of the other was Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. Now, this man used to go up year by year from his town to worship and to sacrifice to the Lord of hosts at Shiloh, where the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were priests of the Lord. On the day when Elkanah sacrificed, he would give portions to his wife Peninnah and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah, he gave a double portion because he loved her, though the Lord had closed her womb. Her rival used to provoke her severely to irritate her because the Lord had closed her womb. So it went on year by year. As often as she went up to the house of the Lord, she used to provoke her. Therefore Hannah wept and would not eat. Her husband Elkanah said to her, "Hannah, why do you weep? Why do you not eat? Why is your heart sad? Am I not more to you than 10 sons?" End of conversation.
Did he just say, am I not more to you than 10 sons about himself, her husband?
Yeah. Is he not worth more than 10
I don't really
sons?
know that comparing yourself to sons is what you want to do with somebody you're having sex with.
Yeah, it was a different time.
Okay. So he has 2 wives. One of them is fruitful.
Yes.
Her womb is open to the Lord.
Yeah.
Or by the Lord. Very open. It
The
sounds
the Lord did open.
sounds like a highway is going on in there. But the other one, no babies. Well,
Right.
no wonder he loves her more. She's probably not fucking worn out and tired. her vagina's not flapping in the wind.
Right. Yeah. It's not like a whistle when she walks by. Yeah.
Oh, Panini's here.
Panini. Panini.
I'm sorry, what was it? Panene?
Yeah. It's Peninnah.
Peninnah. Okay.
There's probably a better pronunciation of this one. I don't know.
And she's a bitch to her about it because she can't have kids. They're sister wives. They should love each other. They're both in the same sitch.
Yeah, you would think.
I thought in those scenarios that like all the wives took care of the children and like raised them as their own.
I would imagine back then it was probably a little bit different now with the good Mormons who do this.
Yes, of course.
Right.
All the cult leaders and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
But back then, like it was more of a
She probably thought she deserved a higher station because she was producing his heirs, right?
Yeah. I imagine she would be pissed if she's like spitting out all these babies and he's still loves the other one more.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
Right.
That's not her fault. She can't have kids.
No.
It's the Lord's fault.
The Lord's fault. He closed the womb. Yeah.
They make sure to really, really, really keep saying that.
Yeah.
The Lord closed her womb.
Yeah.
It's closed for business.
Right.
By the Lord.
But may the Lord open. After they had eaten and drunk at Shiloh, Hannah rose and presented herself before the Lord. Now Eli, the priest, was sitting on the seat beside the doorpost of the temple of the Lord. She was deeply distressed and prayed to the Lord and wept bitterly. She made this vow, "O Lord of hosts, if only you will look on the misery of your servant and remember me, and not forget your servant, but will give to your servant a male child. Then I will set him before you as a Nazirite until the day of his death. He shall drink neither wine nor intoxicants, and no razor shall touch his head." As she continued praying before the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was praying silently, only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she was drunk. So Eli said to her, "How long will you make a drunken spectacle of yourself? Put away your wine." But Hannah answered, "No, my lord. I am a woman deeply troubled. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but I have been pouring out my soul before the Lord. Do not regard your servant as a worthless woman, for I have been speaking out of my great anxiety and vexation all this time." Then Eli answered, "Go in peace. The God of Israel grant the petition you have made to him." And she said, "Let your servant find favor in your sight." Then the woman went on her way and ate and drank with her husband, and her countenance was sad no longer. I thought it was interesting that he assumed that she was drunk.
Because she was sitting there mouthing, was moving her mouth, but no words were coming out.
Right.
But silent prayer must not have been a thing back then, I guess.
Yeah.
Although I'm pretty. Oh, was that in the Jesus part of the Bible where they talk about not praying out loud?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The newer version.
Yeah.
The newer edition. Yeah.
Right. There was just no point to any bit of that story.
Not really. There's a little bit of a callback to it later, but I just thought it was an interesting. Oh,
when she promises that she'll make her kid a Nazarene.
Well, that is a very central part of Samuel's origin story. But, and you know, if he is a Nazarite from birth, shouldn't he have superhuman strength?
You would think so. That seems to be the precedence that was set.
Yeah.
That if you promise your child to be a Nazarite from birth, that they have God's strength.
Yeah, like that's it's weird how it seems to only be in this one story that being a Nazarite does that.
Yeah. And then the priest thinks she's drunk, and she's like, "I'm not drunk, I'm praying." And he's like, "Oh, my bad. I hope God grants your wish."
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
And then she goes and gets drunk.
Right. Yeah. Oh, and then just to remind folks, a Nazarite, this is what Samson was, but that meant, and they kind of explain it there, that you aren't allowed to cut your hair and you don't drink
or take hallucinogens.
Yeah, and you're supposed to only eat clean foods, not unholy foods.
Oh, right.
They arose early in the morning and worshipped before the Lord. Then they went back to their house at Ramah. Elkanah knew his wife, Hannah, and the Lord remembered her. In due time, Hannah conceived and bore a son. She named him Samuel, for she said, "I have asked him of the Lord."
He knew her, huh? Biblically.
He knew her. Yeah.
I guess that's what they mean when they say, like, that is a phrase, right? He knew her biblically.
Yeah.
Because they
in the biblical sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's what when they just wouldn't say.
Yeah.
Sex.
He fucked her.
I don't think fuck was even a word back then.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a modern word.
It is.
But
definitely. Yes. They didn't have English back then.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't have the equivalent of the word fuck.
Yeah.
I guess is what
I don't
I'm
know.
saying.
They might have had slang.
Snog.
For it. Snog. Yeah.
Snoo.
Yeah. Anyway, so they have sex.
Yes.
And she actually conceives because God has decided
God remembered her. She finally asked.
I guess.
That's all she needed to do. Is be like, God, I need a baby. And God's like, well, it's about time you asked. I'm not giving you a baby unless you ask for it.
And I'm not giving you a baby unless you promise to immediately give it up.
Right.
Back to me.
Well, she still has to raise it.
Well, not really.
No?
No.
Oh.
Actually, she doesn't. So
really, she just wants to have a kid so that this panini bitch leaves her alone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's honestly what it sounds like now.
It is what it seems to be. Yeah. Once she weans him, she takes him up to Shiloh and gives him to Eli. It's funny because...
Oh, she gives the baby to a priest to raise?
Yeah.
Yeah, that always works out.
He's not a baby anymore. He's weaned, so he's probably like 14, right? And it's funny because she's like, I am the woman that was standing there in your presence praying to the Lord, to Eli, And it's like, I'm not sure that would really narrow it down.
I know.
Like, that was at least a year before. It was probably a couple years before, and it's like...
Well, yeah, she takes him up there. Well, I mean, I'm sure she goes... It's not her only appearance there. It sounds like they do a lot of spending of time.
They go up there once a year.
Oh, is it just once a year?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, for the sacrifice.
Oh, they don't go to church every day?
They might have a local synagogue.
Gotcha.
You don't know. I don't know.
Oh, this is like the home office?
This is like, because this is before there's a temple.
Okay.
Because the first temple comes in with David's son, Solomon.
Mm-hmm.
He builds, in theory, the first temple. We have yet to ever find ruins of this temple. So there's a chance that all of that was made up.
Sure.
That they built it at all. At this point, in theory, the tent of meeting, you remember from the story of Moses, they had the tent that Moses would meet God at.
Yes.
In theory, that tent would be set up here in Shiloh.
Like the roaming evangelical tents of the South.
Yeah. Yeah. the tent revivals.
Yes.
Yeah. So, anyway, so that would function as a temple, basically.
Gotcha.
And that's
where they would go do their daily...
Their yearly sacrifice.
Oh, that's where they would do their yearly sacrifice.
Right.
Their daily shit was just...
Like, they might have...
Or...
I guess, they don't explain it. I don't know why they don't explain it, but they don't.
I thought they set out very, specific rules on what people should be doing to, pray and talk to God and all of that stuff.
Yeah, but they never are and you should go to a synagogue once a week.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a command about that. That just kind of came about.
Mm-hmm.
I used to know where that came from, but I don't remember now.
That's okay.
Anyway.
It's not pertinent to the story.
No.
Okay.
By the time of Jesus, though, there are synagogues for sure.
So she's weaned the baby.
Yeah.
One can only assume that means it's a couple years old. So she's expecting this guy to remember her a couple years on.
Yep.
Like he doesn't see other women coming up there praying for babies.
Right.
All the time.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
No wonder her womb was closed.
Right. Yeah. And then at the start of chapter 2, Hannah has a prayer, which is really just a poem.
Okay.
I'm not going to do a whole reading for it, but the bullet points are Hannah begins by expressing joy and rejoicing in the Lord for answering her prayer and granting her a son. She acknowledges that there is no one holy like the Lord, and there is no one besides him, emphasizing his uniqueness and supremacy. Hannah states that the Lord is a God who knows everything and he judges the actions of individuals. She notes that the barren woman bears 7, but the woman with many children is forlorn.
What does that mean?
Because she actually has a baby now. It's her expressing that God can take somebody who's barren and give them children.
Mm-hmm.
and make somebody who has children sad, I guess.
That's just postpartum depression.
I guess, yeah.
It's just weird that she said 7 children because she's had 1 so far.
Right. And she'll have more, but it looks like she at most has 6.
Okay.
Which is interesting.
Does she ask God for each one of them?
No.
Or is just the floodgates are open now?
Yeah, now it's just
I see.
Yeah.
You know what was probably happening is her husband was like fucking her in the ass.
Yeah.
And like she was wondering why she wasn't getting pregnant.
Right.
And then
because they didn't have sex ed back then.
Right. And then one day he just put it in her vagina and she was like, oh, this feels different. And then she was pregnant.
Yeah. Makes you wonder how he got the other one pregnant. If that's what he thought you were supposed to be doing.
I don't know that he thought that's what he was supposed to be doing. I think he just liked it. That's why he liked her more. Do you see?
Yeah.
Because she was the butt wife.
She was the one that didn't know the difference. Yeah. Towards the end, though, she says, he will give strength to his king. And it's interesting that she calls that line out because what king at that point?
Right.
There's a lot of little hints to people knowing there is a king, even though there is no king yet.
Right.
And I think that's probably some of the anachronisms that they were talking a little bit. She also says, for the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and on them he has set the world, which sounds a little flat earthy to me.
Well, you can set a sphere on pillars and have it stay.
I mean, you could.
If there's a bunch of them, you set it in the middle.
Yeah.
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 But also that sounds like pulled right out of Greek mythology.
Yeah. Like, why would there be pillars at all?
Why would there be pillars of lords holding up the earth?
Not pillars of lords.
That's what you said.
Pillars are the Lord's.
Well, okay.
Like he owns the pillars.
They're the Lord's.
Yeah.
Holding up the earth. I think you're thinking it's a metaphor, and I'm thinking they think that there's people holding up the earth.
Oh. Okay.
To me, they believed Atlas held up the world in fucking Greek mythology. So to me, it's not outside of the realm of possibility that people thought there was something holding up the earth back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Anyway, so they leave Samuel at the temple and they come visit him once a year when they give their annual offering. But what I kept thinking about, like, what's the point of actually having this kid if you're just giving him up? Mm-hmm. You know, like when I said the irresistible desire to give birth, it's like, did you just want to give birth to this kid?
She just wanted to Panini stop making fun of her. I'm telling you. It's the same as like rich people who then have a nanny raise their child.
Right.
Or send them off to boarding school.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a status symbol.
It is. Yeah. Especially for a woman, I would imagine back then, women who couldn't or didn't have children were not looked upon favorably.
Right.
In society.
I mean, really, what is the point of you?
Well, I mean, that's kind of, I think, what they thought.
Yeah.
Josh, what's got you so down?
Oh, you know. Existential dread brought on by a lifetime of socially conservative propaganda and apocalyptic nightmares fueled by the guilty fear of rejection by the Lord upon my death.
Ah, Christian shit.
Yeah, Christian shit.
Well, I think you need to talk to one of the, quote, trained, unquote, quote, therapists, unquote, at Bestest Help.
Bestest Help? What do they do?
Even though we live in the light of the Lord and are guided by his divine plan, we all get a little depressed now and then.
So, even though we're religious, we can still be burdened with mental health issues that everyone deals with.
Mental health issues? No, Josh. It's Satan.
Oh.
At Bestest Help, you'll be paired with a de-Satanizer representative who will pray the Satan away on your behalf.
So this person can just pray for my depression to go away and it's gone forever?
You're funny for a depressed person. No.
How much does it cost?
That's what's so great. Bestest Help is the same as the low, low cost of, quote, real, unquote, quote, therapy, unquote. So just a few tens of thousands of dollars and you'll be as healthy as Adam before God invented Eve.
I guess it's worth it to be free from Satan's grasp.
Of course it is. How will God ever love you if you can't even get Satan off your back?
And since religion made me depressed, it just makes sense that religion could cure me.
That sounds like a thing that could be real.
This will fill that hole in my heart everyone tells me I have. Thanks, Bestest Help.
Use promo code BSFA at checkout to get 10% more Satan removed.
Bestest Help is only available in the continental United States, the only country to blame all their problems on mental health and do absolutely jack shit to improve it. Priests being priests.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Then they left him there before the Lord and went home to Ramah while the boy remained to minister to the Lord in the presence of Eli. Now the sons of Eli were scoundrels. They had no regard for the Lord or for the duties of the priests to the people. When anyone offered sacrifice, the priest's servant would come while the meat was boiling with a 3-pronged fork in his hand, and he would thrust it into the pan, kettle, cauldron, or pot. All that the fork brought up, the priest would take for himself. This is what they did at Shiloh to all the Israelites who came there. Moreover, before the fat was burned, the priest's servant would come up and say to the one who was sacrificing, "Give meat for the priest to roast, for he will not accept boiled meat from you, but only raw." And if the man said to him, "Let them burn the fat first and then take whatever you wish," he would say, "No, you must give it now. If not, I will take it by force." Thus the sin of the young men was very great in the sight of the Lord, for they treated the offerings of the Lord with contempt. So priests were allowed certain portions of a sacrifice, but they're demanding more than what they're allotted. Right.
Well, his sons were demanding more.
Yeah. Who were his sons who were priests?
Oh.
Yeah.
His naughty sons.
Right.
Are they his biological sons or are they just other children that were left there?
No, I think they are his biological sons.
So priests back then were allowed to.
Oh, yeah. Jewish priests were allowed to marry.
Are they still? You know?
Well, I don't think they really have priests at this point. They have rabbis. Yeah. Who are allowed to get married.
Okay. So it's just the Catholic Church that's fucked up.
Yeah. It's pretty much. Yeah. Catholic Church, Eastern Orthodox. I think priests also can't get married in the Eastern Orthodox. But I think that's it.
Yeah.
Like all the Protestant ones, I think, even the ones who have priests, they're able to get married. Also, according to Leviticus 3, the fat was supposed to be the Lord's portion, and they're demanding that as well.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's what they're doing wrong.
The Lord likes the fat.
The Lord likes the fat.
Blame him. It's tasty.
I guess. Yeah. I'd be more okay with the meat. Not a fat guy. Well. Samuel was ministering before the Lord, a boy wearing a linen ephod. His mother used to make him a little robe and take it to him each year when she went up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice. Then Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife and say, "May the Lord repay you with children by this woman for the loan that she made to the Lord." And then they would return to their home. And the Lord took note of Hannah. She conceived and bore 3 sons and 2 daughters. And the boy Samuel grew up in the presence of the Lord. So Eli's getting older, and he confronts his kids about being little shits. We don't get a response from them, but it ends with this line: "But they would not listen to the voice of their father, for it was the will of the Lord to kill them."
Oh.
Yeah, sounds an awful lot like they don't have free will.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, they're meant to be shit so that they'll be killed?
Yeah. It's just like when...
To what end, though?
Right. It's just like when the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart.
Right.
Yeah.
Are we going to get to their killing?
Yes, we are. Yep.
I didn't know if that was like just where they dropped it.
No,
like,
no.
Then because they're meant to be killed. The end.
Right. No, it's going to get more intense on them. God really gets pissed off about it. So
about them being little shits?
Yeah.
Come on, though.
Yeah. Well, they're taking his fat.
But also, like, he wouldn't allow them to listen to the voice of their father.
Yeah. Because he's going to kill them.
Because they're meant to be killed. But so then why is he... The only problem I have with this is just that he's angry about it.
Yeah.
Because he knows. It's like... I mean, I guess that makes sense, though, because as a parent, you do know that your kids are going to do stupid shit. Yeah. And you kind of expect it. But every time they do it, you're like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
It reminds me of in Pulp Fiction when John Travolta is talking about the guy who keys his car after it's been like he's had it in storage for like months or a year or something like that. Gets it out of storage, and within a week, somebody keys his car, and he goes, it would have been worth it for them to do it just if I could catch them doing it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like, that's kind of the thing that's going on with God here, where he's like, I just want to kill them at this point. Right. I'm going to make sure they keep doing it so I can kill them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why he doesn't just smite people for the fuck of it.
I know. He doesn't need a reason. He's fucking God.
Right.
If he wants to kill somebody, he can. And then everybody in the world will just be like, well, God wanted it to happen.
Yeah.
Who's he explaining himself to?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, really, yeah. Like, how does the writer of this know that's what God's plan was?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Holy Spirit, obviously.
Well, yeah,
but
clearly,
divine.
even though that's not a thing in Judaism,
it's divine inspiration. Yeah.
Now, the boy Samuel continued to grow both in stature and in favor with the Lord and with the people. A man of God came to Eli and said to him, "Thus the Lord has said, I revealed myself to the family of your ancestor in Egypt when they were slaves to the house of Pharaoh. I chose him out of all the tribes of Israel to be my priest, to go up to my altar to offer incense, to wear an ephod before me, and I gave to the family of your ancestor all my offerings by fire from the Israelites. Why then look with greedy eye at my sacrifices and my offerings, and honor your sons more than me by fattening yourselves on the choicest parts of every offering of my people Israel? Therefore, the Lord, the God of Israel, declares, I promised that your family and the family of your ancestors should go in and out before me forever. But now the Lord declares, far be it from me, for those who honor me I will honor, and those who despise me shall be treated with contempt. See, a time is coming when I will cut off your strength and the strength of your ancestors' family. No one in your family shall ever live to old age. The only one of you whom I shall not cut off from my altar shall be spared to weep out his eyes and grieve his heart. All the members of your household shall die by the sword. The fate of your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, shall be the sign to you. Both of them shall die on the same day. I will raise up for myself a faithful priest who shall do according to what is in my heart and in my mind. I will build him a sure house, and he shall go in and out before my anointed one forever. Everyone who is left in your family shall come and prostrate himself before him for a piece of silver or a loaf of bread, and shall say, Please, put me in one of the priest's places, that I may eat a morsel of bread. So basically, this guy,
this rando,
this man of God, nameless man of God.
Yeah, man of God. Okay.
Yeah, shows up and gives him a message from God because God couldn't just speak to him,
his
apparently.
Own priests.
Yeah, and tells him that, he's going to kill everybody in his family, basically. Everybody in this family will die by the sword. Except for Eli himself.
Right.
Who's going to
cry his eyes out.
Yeah.
Is he though?
Yeah. Well, he doesn't die by a sword.
Well, no. Is he going to cry his eyes out for his son?
I mean, he goes blind. I don't know if that counts.
I'm like, after all of the time that he's probably yelled at them and they wouldn't listen. I don't know.
Yeah. What's funny is by the end, he doesn't seem like he gives a shit about the kids at all. He's more concerned about the Lord, you know.
Yeah. Did he say that God sent him with a message? It sounded to me more like he was just mad that they were taking like the good meat.
Yeah. He starts off by saying, "Thus the Lord has said," and then went into the whole thing.
Yeah.
Lord said a lot.
Does that mean God talked to him though, or is he just using like
God told me?
Or like, sometimes, especially like these days, people will talk about God speaking to them, but really that just means that they read the Bible.
Yeah.
They read something in the Bible.
Yeah.
God said.
Or they just had a thought and they were like, that sounds like something God would say.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So he just is mad about them taking the good meat. But like, honestly, why is that any of his business? If he's doing the sacrifice the way he's meant to, then why does he fucking care what they're doing?
Why does God care?
No, this man.
Oh. Because he cares what God thinks, I guess.
Mind his own fucking business.
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably what Eli said. It's definitely what his kid said.
The Bible would be really, really short if everyone just minded their own business, though.
Yeah.
Minded?
Mound?
I think minded is right.
Yeah, I think so.
Mound their own business.
Mounded
their own business.
Yeah. One thing that is interesting about this, it made me think of, because they were talking about his ancestors, family and stuff. And it's not specific. It could be that Eli is likely a Levite because he's a priest, right?
So he's related to.
Well, he could be either a descendant of Moses or a descendant of Aaron. But they don't say. They keep saying your ancestor.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting thing, because it's like, are they talking about Moses or Aaron? You know, but you can tell they're talking about one of those two. Another thing, though, that made me think of is actually Samuel, though. Samuel's not a Levite.
No.
He's his I think an Ephraimite or something like that. I can't remember now. I'm pretty sure it was an Ephraimite. And yet he's a priest. So that's an interesting thing. Because Levite, in theory, according to the Bible, only Levites are supposed to be priests.
Right.
But
I guess when you're promised as a
Nazarite,
as a fetus to be a Nazarite, though, then maybe there's a loophole there.
Right.
I mean, obviously God wanted it to happen because he allowed her womb to open up.
Yes. As soon as she promised.
And let a baby fall out of it. Yes.
Promised to let this deity have her really, child.
You know, God's just a witch from Grimm's fairy tales.
Yeah.
Because every witch in Grimm's fairy tales is like, I will give you what you want if you'll give me your firstborn child.
Yeah. God takes a lot of firstborn children.
Yeah, he does.
That's probably where they got that. The Grimm folks.
I'm sure. Why not start some fairy tales off with stuff you got from the Bible? It makes total sense.
Yeah. The more I read this stuff, the more I'm like, I see a lot of Shakespeare in this too.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it is a source book for a lot of other art.
Right.
For sure.
For a long time, it was the only book most people could read, I think.
Right.
Worst alarm clock ever. Now, the boy Samuel was ministering to the Lord under Eli. The word of the Lord was rare in those days. Visions were not widespread. At that time, Eli, whose eyesight had begun to grow dim so that he could not see, was lying down in his room. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was lying down in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was. Then the Lord called Samuel. Samuel, Samuel. And he said, Here I am, and ran to Eli and said, Here I am, for you called me. But he said, I did not call. Lie down again. So he went and lay down. The Lord called again, Samuel, Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." But he said, "I did not call, my son. Lie down again." Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, and the word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. The Lord called Samuel again, a third time, and he got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." Then Eli perceived that the Lord was calling the boy. Therefore Eli said to Samuel, "Go, lie down, and if he calls you, you shall say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" So Samuel went and lay down in his place. Now the Lord came and stood there, calling as before, "Samuel, Samuel." And Samuel said, "Speak, for your servant is listening." Then the Lord said to Samuel, "See, I am about to do something in Israel that will make both ears of anyone who hears it tingle. On that day I will fulfill against Eli all that I have spoken concerning his house, from beginning to end. For I have told him that I am about to punish his house forever for the iniquity that he knew, because his sons were blaspheming God, and he did not restrain them. Therefore I swear to the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be expiated by sacrifice or offering forever." Samuel lay there until morning. Then he opened the doors of the house of the Lord. Samuel was afraid to tell the vision to Eli. But Eli called Samuel and said, "Samuel, my son." He said, "Here I am." Eli said, "What was it that he told you? Do not hide it from me. May God do so to you and more also if you hide anything from me of all that he has told you." So Samuel told him everything and hid nothing from him. Then he said, "It is the Lord. Let him do what seems good to him." If God's going to make both ears of everyone tingle who hears it, is he doing ASMR?
Putting his God words in their ear pussies.
Yeah, so that's a weird thing.
It is.
Like I've never heard them say anything like that. Like your ears tingling, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So a couple things I learned from this little bit.
Yep.
Apparently God won't talk to you unless you acknowledge that he's saying your name.
Right. Yeah.
Or is it that, like, much like a vampire that can't come into your house without being invited, God can't actually talk to you unless you're like, "What?"
What? God.
And I just picture this kid like hearing his name and then getting up and being like, "Here I am." And Eli being like, "No, go lay that down." And like, he keeps doing it. Like, what kind of fucking idiot is this kid?
Yeah.
And also, okay, so he's been living with this priest.
Yeah.
And his sons, who are also priests, but he doesn't know the Lord.
Right. Like he's never received
He hasn't gotten
a message from God.
He hasn't gotten the Lord's. He's never known the Lord.
Right.
In his ear pussy.
In the biblical sense.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because and like it says, like visions were rare in those days, unlike these days.
Yeah, people have them left and right, and on toast and
On toast.
In rocks.
They only ever see Jesus. They never see any of the other Bible people.
That's true.
You know,
that's true. Just Jesus.
Yeah.
No. Wrong.
Mother Mary.
Mary.
Yeah, it's Jesus or Mary because it's always the fucking Catholics.
Yeah, it is. It's true.
Let's see stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the movie Pecker. And his grandma, his Meemaw in that movie has a painting of Mary where the mouth moves and she says, I think it's
like a little statue.
And it goes, Lamb of God.
Yeah.
Lamb of God.
It's so weird. I think it's like Hail Mary and Lamb of God that says. Yeah. Which why would Mary say Hail Mary?
I know. I just remember Lamb of God, but it's been a minute since I watched that.
I wouldn't mind seeing that one again. You mentioned this when we were listening to it, that Hanani.
Hanani.
Yeah, Here I Am. That's what Moses says to God when during the burning bush, the first thing he says is, "Here I am, Hanani." Yep. And it's a common thing throughout the Bible when a prophet first interacts with God to end up saying that.
I really wish that God would just be like, I know you're here. That's why I said your name.
Yeah. All knowing. I'm all knowing. Don't need to talk at all for this. Let me just talk to you.
Except you have to acknowledge my presence in order for me to stop saying your name. So say something.
Right.
And then shut up.
It's basically God's ringtone. It's just him saying his name.
Joshua. Joshua. Joshua.
What?
Oh, hey.
Oh, hey. As Samuel grew up, the Lord was with him and let none of his words fall to the ground. And all Israel from Dan to Beersheba knew that Samuel was a trustworthy prophet of the Lord. The Lord continued to appear at Shiloh, for the Lord revealed himself to Samuel at Shiloh by the word of the Lord. And the word of Samuel came to all Israel. Yeah, so that's the first 3 chapters of 1 Samuel, except for that last line, which comes from chapter 4. For some reason, they threw that at the beginning of the next chapter, even though it has nothing to do with what comes right after that.
Oh, that's weird. It's like they just did some bad editing.
They really did. There's several places in the Bible where it's like, why did they start the chapter there? Like one sentence later, and it makes sense. Yeah. You know,
it's like they were trying to leave the chapter on a cliffhanger so people would keep reading.
Right. Yeah.
Although this was not a cliffhanger.
Yeah. It's kind of like starting it with a cliffhanger. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
he becomes a prophet.
Yeah, that's the origin story for Samuel.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on.
It's not a super interesting episode, honestly. Like the readings and stuff, it's kind of boring. But
yeah. I mean, you know, there's stuff that's happening. There's a wife, and there's a couple wives, and one's a bitch, and one's not. And the one that's not a bitch is the one that ends up giving up her baby.
Right. Yeah.
Although you would think that you want the good one raising the children. But
I don't think we end up hearing anything more about them because
I appreciate that they had names.
Yeah. Anytime that there's a woman in the Bible that has a name, it's progress.
Yeah. You hear it a couple times too. Yeah. It's not just like at the very, I mean, they start the whole thing out with being like, here are the wives' names.
Right. Yeah.
It's like somebody went through Judges and started writing this one and was like, you know, there was one weird thing about Judges. And that's like most of the women didn't have names. And I found that a little bit odd.
We got some feedback from the wives on this.
I don't really care about women, but like names are nice for when you're trying to think about the story.
Yeah. We need to give the women some role models. And by that, I mean, we should just name some of the women.
So they have somebody to talk about. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, I want to be like Hannah.
Right.
You know,
as opposed to the raped to death woman in Judges.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say as opposed to Panini.
Oh, Panini. Yeah. Yeah. What is her? Now that's her name forever is Panini. I don't even know that I want you to tell me what her actual name is.
Yeah. It doesn't really matter. Again, I don't think she comes up again.
No, really, she was just the driver of like Hannah being sad.
Yeah, right.
Because if she was nice to her and also was like, let's raise the children together, then Hannah wouldn't have felt the need to ask God for a baby.
Right. She could be sort of a mother to Panini's kids.
Children.
Yeah.
Because God knows Panini was just shooting them out left
finger
and right.
Sandwiches. That's that episode.
Right on.
Yeah.
Off to a good start.
Yeah. Short one, comparatively. We haven't even been recording for an hour yet.
Whoa.
Almost an hour.
Well, this is the new
format.
This is the new format.
Yeah.
The shorter, more often format.
Yeah. I think it went well.
Yeah, I think so. I kind of like it because when it does go on and on and on and on, even when it is interesting, I usually hit a wall where I'm like, I don't want to listen to this anymore.
Right. Right.
And I hope our listeners don't hit that wall too, but like it's just listening to the Bible for a really long time.
I know. I actually re-recorded the readings the other day because they were too fucking boring. And I was like, I got to spice up how I read it. I got to just like make how I'm reading it a little bit more interesting just to give it some more emotion, give it some more, like I was going through. I it's going down a whole other route, but I've realized one of my tendencies since the beginning of the show has been to try and come across as impartial as possible when reading the Bible.
Right.
Because like I want to give it as fair of a shake as it deserves, which is, you just read the text that's there and what does that mean to you,
Right.
But at the same time, when it comes to like creating an entertaining and interesting
you have to
podcast,
spicy it up.
Yeah, you gotta
that's
do some emotive. Like so like I figured, reading it like how I read it in my head and not like just reading it out like I'm a fucking computer.
Right.
It makes more sense.
Yeah.
Like
sure.
Yeah.
And then
that's why I did voices in the Samson episode.
Yes.
So, anyway.
That was a choice. And that's the fault of the Bible.
Right.
I mean, if you have to read it, if you have to add spice to it while you're reading it, that's the fault of the writer.
Right. Yeah.
Not the fault of the reader.
Yeah.
So.
It's definitely a dry story.
Yeah, most of them are.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
No.
Some of them are spicy on their own.
Oh yeah. You don't have to do a lot of spice to get foxes on fire.
Or to stab people in their fat.
Yeah.
Those sort of things.
Yeah. Next episode, though, we get to hear about the Ark of the Covenant.
Again. Okay.
Yeah. It's very prominent.
They said the Ark of the Lord.
The Ark of the Lord, yeah.
Same thing. Is it the Ark of the Covenant? Like he has the actual Ark of the Covenant?
Yes.
Eli does?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Because he's the headquarters.
Right. This is the tent
Yeah.
The tent of meeting. Yeah. In theory, that's my understanding. Is that again? They don't say it. I don't believe, but I believe that this is at the tent of meeting.
Does he have his own? Does Eli have his own book, or am I just thinking of that movie with Denzel Washington?
I can't remember off the top of my head if there is a Book of Eli. There might be.
There's a movie called The Book of Eli.
There is,
but that's a dystopian, movie. And I don't think it had anything to do with religion.
I think he was religious or something.
Oh, he was blind as well.
Was he?
Yeah.
I don't remember that very well. I saw it once and I was like, this
it's somewhere in my memory banks. It's
it was like not Christian enough.
That he was blind, which I guess makes sense if he's, because you say Eli goes blind eventually.
He does, yeah.
Yeah. So, fine. I don't know.
Anyway, with that, they all lived miserably ever after. Thank you so much for checking out our podcast. Help us share the good news by sending this to a friend or leaving a review to help others find us. And if you want to support us with a donation, you can do that on our website at bsfa.cc. Whatever, I do what I want.
You do what you want. Do. You do.
Do. You said do.
Do.